here on the wild side of Georgian Bay, and wow, is it ever beautiful. I'm out here near Killarney at Phillip Edward Island. I just launched about an hour ago from Chickanishing Creek, and I paddled up that creek, or down it I should say, out onto the bay, and I'm going to be spending the next 3 days circumnavigating Phillip Edward Island here. Phillip Edward Island is near Killarney Provincial Park, but it is itself crown land. It is a large island. It is about 50 or so kilometers to circle the whole length of it, and it is open on the one side to the exposed wind and waves of Georgian Bay, and has an archipelago of islands smattered against it, which make for absolutely prime paddling to weave your way in and out of them. This truly is a different kind of paddling altogether from your average everyday canoeing. Off to my right here is just horizon as far as the eye can see. Just blue water. I'd had a small taste of paddling on Georgian Bay from the one time I paddled in the French River Delta, but on a very overcast, cloudy day, and I barely saw any of it. To catch it on a day like this, with sun and blue skies, seeing this turquoise, crystal clear blue water, these smashed rocks of pink granite, scraggly trees just clinging to little bits of rock, and just a maze of islands to pick your way through. This is pretty incredible. This is a bit of a paddler's paradise right now. Getting a little choppier here, a little more exposed. What you really need to watch for are the small shoals that are everywhere, that you can't really see them. That's what makes it so, some of these parts so wavy and so choppy. As the waves come in, it shallows up on these rocks that you can't see. Easy to smack your canoe or beat yourself on one of them. You can see how areas of Georgian Bay like this could be a real graveyard of these Great Lakes for ships because of just the sheer number of rocks and shoals, in addition to, you know, how bad the weather and the wind can kick up. There's a small island maybe a kilometer or so up ahead that looks like it has a decent little bit of elevation and a lot of bare rock. So I think I might paddle over to it and maybe just get my bearings, take a bit of a lookout, see if there's a nice view to enjoy. I'm trying to pick my jaw up off the floor right now. The views are so stunning. This is pure Canadian Shield scenery on steroids. It's crazy. Every corner around, every bend around every island, it's just a new piece of eye candy just presenting itself. The island that I'm on right now, Martin's Island, has just a lookout at the center of it with a commanding view out over Georgian Bay, looking out across at the Fox Islands, looking back behind me to Phillip Edward Island and Killarney behind that. You can just feel here how the forces of nature have shaped this place. The rock on this island, the pink granite, it is rubbed so smooth by the action of the waves in the water over time. It's like it's been sculpted by these primeval forces. It's so beautiful and kind of alien to look at. It's otherworldly. Oh, I'm kicking myself for not having an extra night to stay here now, because I've never wanted to stop so badly on a campsite as stopping on this one right now. It's so beautiful. Probably one of the nicest campsites I've ever seen. Pretty amazing the size of the swells right now, and by no means is it stormy, but it feels very oceanic. There's deep troughs between the waves as they're passing me by, and the canoe is kind of getting picked up by the ass end of it here and surfing a little bit as it sort of pushes me along. And just like that, I'm in a beautifully sheltered little cove now. It is just a maze, this archipelago of broken rock in here. And you can just pick your route, explore, weave your way through. Just the exploration possibilities seemingly without limit. And in just a minute, you go from the wild, wide open vistas with the big surf and chop of Georgian Bay, and then you just kind of tuck into the shelter of a couple of these little islands here, and then suddenly everything's intimate again. You're hearing the bird song. The wind sounds like a distant force. Passing through some treacherous shoals here. Oh. Can't take your eyes off the road sort of sometimes here. Just get so lost in the scenery here, and then you miss the giant rock or a little shallow area that you're right about to go over. So keeping a watchful eye. This is a fabulous campsite. I managed to find a spot just on the end of the point of Big Rock Bay here. And right now I don't see another soul around. It was a little bit busy at the landing and the first couple of sites when I was paddling around the island that were closest to the access point. But I left all those people behind a long time ago, and now it feels like I've got this whole stretch of Georgian Bay here to myself. This is a very different experience than my last time out canoeing. Difference number one, paddling what feels like a freshwater ocean. Difference number two, I've gone all day without getting a single mosquito bite. Knock on wood, it'll continue on the rest of the day. It's almost sunset and I'm sitting out here in t-shirt and shorts, uncovered, no bug spray on, enjoying a beautiful, beautiful offshore breeze. And I hope it never ends. No promises that I'm actually going to get through these books here, but I am always talking about how I never know enough about what's going on out here in terms of being able to identify plants, trees, flowers, even, you know, species of birds and other things. You know, there's so much to be able to know and to learn. It's a lifetime's endeavor, of course, but I would like to know more, I would like to learn more, and I would like to be able to show people more. So that is my goal for this trip, is to maybe browse these books a little bit and perhaps try to identify a couple before this is out. Why don't we say 3 wildflowers and maybe 3 edible or medicinal plants. Shout out to my buddy Rob from Friends of Temagami, who on my Temagami trip in the spring gave me one of these. It's a cutting board that's made to perfectly fit a 30 or 60 liter food barrel. It's pretty simple but pretty clever. Thanks, Rob. Oh, you don't? A little bit more of a deconstructed falafel, if we're being honest, which we are, but delicious nonetheless. I may have spoken a tad prematurely about the mosquitoes. As soon as the sun went down, even though there was a bit of a breeze, they came out full force. And I did enjoy the view for a bit, but they drove me inside. So, nothing much to do now but just read myself to sleep and let the sound of their sweet music carry me off to dreamland. Beautiful morning. Got up early, before 6 to catch the sunrise. Very much worth it. Beautiful, beautiful view over the bay here. Just got my coffee going, got my breakfast going. Gonna get an early start on the water today. Excited to get out and explore and paddle around. Winds are picking up a little more today, and they're gonna be a south wind. It's gonna be coming from offshore, and they're gonna be a bit stronger than yesterday. So I don't know what that's gonna look like, so it's another reason for me to also get on the water early, kind of start paddling, and then maybe by the later part of the day I'll kind of rounded the island and it'll be more of a tailwind, and I'll be able to kind of push along, catch that tailwind, seek shelter if I need to, if it gets, you know, decently rough. So this is the whole overview of Phillip Edward Island. We got Killarney Provincial Park up here, and I started over here by my Nalgene bottle at Chickadee Creek, rounded the south point of the island, and then I worked my way in between, just kind of cutting through these little islands in through here out to the Fox Islands. And it was this one, Martin's Island, that's where I had lunch. Curved around, worked my way through these, round Campbell Point, round Solomon's Bay, and then in through this Silver Island Channel, and I'm camped somewhere right here close to this big rock portage. Plan for today is to then cut my way through these islands here, continue working my way along the south side of Phillip Edward, and then around the point here, at which point then I'm into Beaverstone Bay and work my way up through here. I tried talking about it yesterday and was having trouble finding the right words, but it's incredible to see the action of the wind and waves over time on the rock here in the bay. At my campsite last night, on the exposed side of the rock, you can see how the changing water levels of Georgian Bay over time have just scooped out depressions and bowls in the rock itself, and it's sculpted. It looks like fingers have been run through clay or Play-Doh or something. Almost looks like sand dunes that have been frozen in time. Choppy little section through here. I don't know if they're called reflector waves, but you're getting the action, the reverberation of the waves as they're coming in offshore and smacking against the rocks, and then you're paddling alongside them. So then you've got the chop coming on both sides, hitting you left and right. Took my eyes off the road for a half second and almost got scooped up and dumped on top of a big rock. As you paddle along, you can see where the high water line of Georgian Bay is, about a foot or two above where the water currently is now. This dramatic pink line that separates where the high water is. You can see the lichen, the rock, the different colorations of the rock, and below that is the solid pink granite that doesn't have any growth on it. Waves are picking up over here. I was going to try and round this point here into the more exposed part of the bay, but the waves were getting pretty big. And I decided to turn back and retreat to some safety of some calmer waters and some smarter paddling, all things considered. I managed to orient myself by that buoy there, D92, marked on the map, and that is the southeast corner of Phillip Edward Island. So I have made my way around the south side. I was hoping today to, if I had time and if the weather would cooperate, to make it out to the very small but plentiful group of islands called the Chickens, but with the way the wind and the waves are building up, that's not going to be in the cards today, unfortunately. So now I'm turning north and I'm heading into Beaverstone Bay here, and I'm going to be working my way around the east side of the island where I should have a tailwind and it should be substantially more sheltered, I should hope. I'm just getting rocketed across this bay right now. Taking a little lunch stop right here and looking where I came from back up the bay. I'm very, very grateful that I'm not heading in that direction. It is looking nasty right now. There is big, big wind and waves blowing from the south. It is chopped up with whitecaps everywhere. It feels like it's probably worse even than when I was coming across it, which makes sense because now we're getting towards the afternoon, so that wind is just kind of building throughout the day. So very happy to be where I'm at right now. I humbly submit my take on an old Voyager classic, pemmican, but updated for the modern sensibilities and tastes. Take 3 leftover Beyond Meat breakfast sausages from this morning, 1 tortilla to substitute for your bannock, a handful of blueberries. Just wrap that together. Oh. Collins Inlet coming up just around the bend. The bay is getting angry. An old man trying to send back soup at a deli. Decent amount of flat ground to throw the tent down, or in my case the hammock, which is very appreciated, and only 1 small bit of feces that was left behind by somebody who couldn't bother digging a cat hole, even though there are innumerable places to do so. So other than that, a pretty nice site. I probably would deduct 1 star for that minor, major, awful, unsightly detail. But I'm tired, and it's been enough paddling for today, so I'm ready to relax, shit or not. Just taking a minute to kick back in the shade, have a snack here. Camp is all set up, and I paddled at least 21 kilometers today, and I've got my fair share of sun, so I'm happy to take a minute to just sit in the cool shade and just be out of that heat. The situation with the uncleaned up crap that I found when I arrived on the site really pisses me off, if you'll excuse that pun. It's really, really great when thunderboxes or outhouses or crappers or whatever you want to call them are on backcountry sites, and I think that they're really important in well-used, well-trafficked areas because they are probably the #1 thing that keeps sites clean and keeps them environmentally friendly. But they are a luxury, and when you're in crownland areas, most of the time you don't have them because there are no park staff, and unless there's a local group of volunteers, an organization that comes in and lugs them in and installs them and digs them, which is a lot of work, then you don't have them. And so it's really important to be a good ambassador for backcountry travel and to, you know, leave it as you would want to find it by somebody else. Clearly, whoever it was, they didn't care, or they didn't have a trowel, which is something that you should be carrying with you if you're going to be traveling in these types of areas. The ground was super soft. Beside it, it took 3 seconds to dig a hole and put it in, but you leave it behind right on the path where somebody would pitch their tent, where somebody would step on it. It's not just unsanitary, it's really disrespectful to both the land that you're enjoying and the other people who have to enjoy it too, but now who can't in the same way because you've had to leave your very special mark on it. Just a little backcountry charcuterie, but not charcuterie, smorgasbord platter. Bit of a loon party happening over there. Don't trust them. Don't know what they're getting up to. I don't have a coffee this morning, which normally would be not good, but I found something just a little bit better. Ooh, and it's cold too. Where did I find an ice cold beer here on day 3 of my trip? You hadn't seen any in the cooler so far. Did I pack it and save it? No. The answer is that there was a group of fishermen that came along this morning to drop some gear off on my campsite, which I found kind of unusual, it being 7 a.m. that they were just going to show up to this site and unload stuff for later while I was still on it. But I can't really complain because they were very nice and they offered me a delightfully ice cold crack canoe. Pancakes and beer. I go okay together. I wouldn't describe it as a classic pairing. just crossed Mill Lake here, which is where I camped last night. Mill Lake is basically just an extended part of Collins Inlet that juts further south. It's kind of long and narrow on the north side of Phillip Edward Island here. Pictographs look pretty faint from such that I could see. I could only spot one or two small little sections, and it was pretty faded. And the rock has grown over with a lot of lichen and other things over time. And it also looks like there might have been a spot where there's been graffitied from a long time ago. Somebody carved it in the rock, but graffiti nonetheless. So that's a little disappointing. Moving on. It's a bit of a grind so far. I'm about halfway done my paddling, about 7 or so kilometers of the 14 or so that I had to do, and it is just relentless headwind the whole way. You can see it's pretty much a straight shot that I'm going along Inlet here, and the wind is just funneled against me down this runway of water, and it's really no escape from it, so you're just going against it the whole way. So I was just paddling along the shore here, and I noticed something that caught my eye, a little flash of white, like a skeleton of some kind on the shore, and I thought maybe it was maybe like a big fish or something, but now that I'm paddling closer, I'm checking it out, and it is definitely a mammal. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that perhaps it's a wolf or a coyote of some kind. Yeah, what do we think? I don't see the skull anywhere, so that would be helpful in identifying this thing. Actually, I see what looks like a hoof of some kind perhaps, so maybe it was a small deer. I'd be interested if anybody's got a thought as to what it is. Back on the grind. Come on. Home stretch, just paddling through the Western Gap right now. I'm staged just kind of across from the mouth of Chickenish Creek, which is where I'm going to be taking out tomorrow, which right now is very, very inhospitable looking, making that crossing, but early in the morning should be fine, I imagine. And you can really see the contrast between the white quartzite ridges of Killarney just beyond, and then the pink granite that makes up this section of the Georgian Bay coast. And seeing it from this perspective, you can sort of then appreciate how that movement of the Earth's crust, the geology, so to speak, how you could see it pushing up, if that makes sense. Now it makes some sense to me to be able to look at it that way. Getting to paddle Georgian Bay here has been a real privilege, and it also gives you a lot of respect for the power of this body of water. It is immense as far as lakes and freshwater bodies go, you know? This trip wasn't even so bad in terms of those conditions, but it still gives you a little taste of just what this bay can do when it wants to whip up and get nasty. And so it's always nice to just keep that little fact in the back of your mind when you're paddling, and you know, give it its due respect as you enjoy the waters. But oh man, couldn't think of a wilder feeling place to be. It is just a world apart is what it feels like. I guess it's time to revisit my promise, or my hopeful promise that I made, which was to identify some edible plants and some wildflowers. It's pretty tough, and I'm pretty amateur at it, so this is just going to be a rough first crack. In terms of flowers, we said 3 each, right? For flowers, fragrant water lily, bullhead lily, harebell. Also some kind of wild rose, possibly a Carolina or swamp rose. Maybe a yellow clintonia as well. Let me know if I'm wrong. Edibles, much tougher. There were blueberries, which I said I would use, but I really needed that gimme. Then there's all the coniferous trees of the forest. Another kind of a cop-out here, but hemlock, pine, cedar even, they all were used to make various teas. So I don't know if you're necessarily eating them per se, but you can make tea from any of those. So that's 2, we'll say. And then double dipping, the lilies. I did not know that they also had edible purposes. The fragrant water lily is apparently, the whole thing's edible, but the bullhead, interestingly enough, the seed inside it could be dried and fried in oil and roasted like popcorn and eaten like popcorn. I have no idea if it tastes as good as popcorn, but if I ever go to the movies out here on the middle of Georgian Bay and I'm short of that, I'll look to collect in the local marsh. Really glad I came here. Definitely gonna come back. Coffee to go this morning. Wow. Mother bear and 2 cubs. Last minute bonus. Woo!